First off, thank you, Jay, for coming on. We appreciate it a lot. I did get the chance to interview your son, as we talked about before.
Really?
So I want to know about the start of your football life, from the moment you first touched a football to the moment your career ended. How did you know it was over, and just all of that?
Well, I mean, I started playing football really, as a freshman in high school. I was a little tiny freshman going out there trying to make the JV team, and they made the team, and there's like, who can kick? And I was like, well, I can kick a soccer ball far, so I'll try. And that's really how it started. And for most of my high school career, I didn't really know what I was doing. They didn't have kicking camps like they have now. They didn't have all that kind of stuff. You just went out there and did it. And so I was just your typical kid playing high school football and kicking, and that didn't really think a lot of it. My main sport was soccer. I played on a club team that we traveled all around the world. We went to Europe in the summers and played against pro teams over in Scotland and England. And, that was really where I thought my career would go until my senior year. My junior year, I had a really good year in football in Florida. We were, lost in the state finals. And then that's kind of when I started thinking, well, maybe I'll kick in college, and started getting some offers, and got an offer from Michigan. And, when I got that offer, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go kick. And, people always are like, well, were you thinking of playing in the NFL? And there's always that vision, like, oh, maybe I could do it. But until you prove yourself at that next level, you go from high school to college. And until you prove yourself in college, you're not really thinking about the next level. And then once you do it in college and do that at a high level, then you start thinking about, okay, maybe I could do this in the NFL. And for me, I had a good last year in college. We won the national championship my senior year, and then I played one more year. And I thought I'd get a chance to go into the NFL, at least, going to training camp, and didn't get brought in. For 2 years, I really wasn't in training camp at all, doing some workouts here and there, working as a financial advisor. I got my Series 6 and 7 and opened my own office, and was still working out on the side and trying to make it. And I really got to that point where I was almost ready to quit, because it had been 2 years. Like, when do you stop living the dream, And I'm working out, and I'm working all day, and then I'm going and working out. My wife's shagging balls when I'm kicking, and I said I'll give it one more opportunity, one more combine. Then I kind of went to a kicking combine, and it didn't kick any better than I had, the previous couple of years, but kicked well. And it's truly like God said, okay, now I'm ready to open those doors. And I had a few offers from different teams. I signed for a big $0. I got no signing bonus, but I got an opportunity, and that's really what I needed. And I went in, and actually Bruce Arians' son, Jake Arians, was the kicker that I was going against in training camp, and the two of us battled, and we both kicked really well. And he got hurt before the first preseason game, so I got like 3 games to prove I could kick, and kicked well. And then all of a sudden, it's been 14 years.
That's great.
Sports are full of superstitions and routines. So I want to know, when you were playing, what were some of your routines or superstitions that you had?
Jeremy, I was like the antithesis of your baseball player, because like I didn't believe in superstition, so I would do things like despite superstition. Like if I missed a kick, no, I'm wearing the exact same socks next week to like prove that it wasn't the socks. I'm gonna make kicks this week. So I was just kind of, that's me. I'm bullheaded and stubborn. And so like I was going to do things despite superstition. And, you do have routines though. Like I was very routine oriented about how I prepared before a game and what I would do and the amount of kicks that I would do. And, I wanted it to be the same as practice. So when I went out to practice, I would kick a certain amount of kicks to warm up. And when I went in the game, I wanted them to be exactly the same amount. Just because, you want everything to be as close to a game in practice as it is. So if you're doing the exact same thing, you're not changing something up on game day. That was kind of my focus. Like if I was kicking in practice, I always wore my shoulder pads, and I always wore my helmet. I remember one of the first practices at Colorado, I saw these kids that, some of these kids out there, the specialists. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, put your helmet and your shoulder pads on. They're like, well, we're just warming up. I'm like, yeah, but you don't kick without your helmet, shoulder pads in a game. So why would you not kick without them in practice? Like, put yourself in the situation that you're going to be in. Like if you're a snapper and you're snapping without your shoulder pads, that's totally different. So why are you practicing that way?
Yeah.
And I not just there, but any college when I go to, even high schools, I talk to the kids about that. Just trying to put yourself in the exact same situation that you're going to be in a game.
I can relate to the superstition one. One thing I love to do is to say, "Oh, this game's in the bag" or "This game's over," when the team's gonna win, but people hate to hear it. So I
Well,
kind
the
of agree with the
broadcaster
stubbornness
gets,
there.
right? Like as soon as you say something happens, like everybody tweets you and they're like, "Why'd you do that? It's your phone."
If we had the power to control
like
the game,
Ocho.
we'd be billionaires. So
That's right.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. Listen, growing up, my mother was very superstitious. As a Puerto Rican woman, she wouldn't let me split the pose. She wouldn't let me step on any cracks, spill any salt, or anything like that. Nice. Go ahead,
one
Jeremy.
little thing before my question here, and it's kind of touching on something you mentioned before. So you mentioned Jeremy Shockey, and this might make you feel a little old, but I was actually, according to my dad, my mom swears I'm not, but I was named after him. So I find it cool. Obviously, you played with him in those 2005, 6 years. So I want to ask, growing up, was there any athlete? Doesn't have to be a football player, it could be anyone. Who was the guy that was just your role model? You looked at him, you looked up to him, you just loved everything about him.
Well, for me, it was a guy you guys might not have heard of. He's a baseball player. His name was John Castino. Played for the Minnesota Twins back in the late 70s, early 80s, rookie of the year in 1979, and he was my cousin. And so I lived in Minnesota at that time growing up, and I would go watch him play and go to his games, and I got a couple of home run balls that he hit. And every once in a while we get the chance to go over to his house, and I would have him sign baseball cards for me. I was a big baseball card collector growing up, and so it was like just unbelievable for me as a little kid to be able to like go and see this guy who is going out there and one of the best players on the field, and he's my cousin, and I get to hang out with him and jump in his pool, and he was so nice to me, and it really had an impact on me when I got into the pros, because I wanted to treat kids the same way that he treated me. And so, when we're in training camp, there's all those people there. Like I tried to, look at every one of those kids that were asking for autographs the same way he treated me and the way he was special to me. And so it really had a big impact on who I was.
I love players like you who really love the kids. I mean, obviously not too long ago, I was, that age where, you just wanted to meet anybody you can. So appreciate it.
Absolutely.
No, that's dope. That's dope.